The unusual spaniel who won't go too far. Hi, my name's Charlie Thorburn. Welcome to Mordor Gun Dogs. We recently did a video on a Cocker Spaniel that was pulling too far when they're out working and going for a walk and exercise and hunting. And this week we're going to do one on a little Springer Spaniel, Margot here, who's quivering with excitement to go out, who doesn't go far enough. And we're just going to talk about what we do to encourage that and some of the little quirks that Margot has that helps her go further and also discourages her from going further. So we're going to head down to one of the fields, let her have a little run around and go from there. You. So what we've got here is a super attentive, very, very loyal, honest 3-year-old Springer Spaniel who's ready to go all the time. But she doesn't go. And what? Gone away. Gone away. Gone away. And she does 2 or 3 very, very tight little casts, but she's not really going more than about 2 meters away from me. She's super stylish. She's got a really low, she holds her body really low, her tail's low. She's right in amongst the grass. She looks great, but she just needs to broaden her horizons, literally, and just get out a little bit. Now, what's really interesting with Margot, I think she sees this as just kind of like, well, we're clearly not hunting anything, so you must be doing some retrieving. So she sees this as a slightly kind of irrelevant ground. And what Ash particularly has noticed is he used her as part of our demonstration at the game fair at Ragley Hall. And he's found when he's been working with her that the thicker the cover, the more she goes. So if you take her near brambles or rhododendrons or something, she's all over it. If you're just in white grass, she's kind of like, oh, this is crap. Where are the retrieves? So that's quite interesting because that's often the opposite. We take young dogs who are lacking in drive, lacking in confidence into thick cover, and they're like, oh, I might break a nail, and they'll sort of follow our path through, and they won't get on with it. And they need that game and that game in front of them, the smells under their nose, a few flushes to really go, oh, there's actually something in there. Margot doesn't seem to have that. She's so reliable that she's literally a dog that I would send off beating with anybody who's never been beating before. My little son, I would send her off beating with her. She's literally never going to go wrong. But to coin a phrase from a very old friend of mine who I learned a lot from back in the day, Edward Martin, a dog that never does anything wrong never does anything right. Okay, so she's staying so close that she's not actually getting the opportunity to really flush birds. So one of the things we do when we're training with her on like long grass and stuff like this is we'll use a tennis ball, okay? So I just cover her eyes, I just fling a ball down there, and I'll fling a ball over there. Gone away. Now she knows there's something to find. Gone away. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Gone away. Gone away. Gone away. And after a few casts, she starts to sort of realise that we're finding a ball and there's something out here for her. So you can see just the mere fact that she knows I threw a tennis ball, she is kind of hunting. Run away. She is hunting more than she was when we were just standing kind of on the grass and she hadn't seen the tennis balls. Problem with Margot is that you literally have to show her those first tennis balls to get her kind of started, and as soon as she can't see them, she tends to sort of stop and she's like, come on, where are they? And her other little quirk is if you're out with another dog, if you're out training with another dog, she just comes in to heel. She doesn't like working with another dog. It's like the autistic moment of Margot's. That's just part of her deal. Now that's something obviously we need to get her over because we work lots of dogs at once. And I think with time and experience that'll happen. But at the moment we have to juggle that, because quite often you take a dog out who's a bit sticky, you let them run with another dog and they're like, oh great, and they start to go. And Margot has the opposite effect. She watches Mash or Smudge out hunting in front of me, and she just stays at my heel and just zips in and around my feet. Even if you've got a Labrador walking to your heel, she tends to want to stay close, and she only likes to work on her own. So we're going to take her down to the longer cover and just see if we can get her going a bit more. Heel. So we've come down to some thicker cover. Going to see how she gets on in here. So you can see she's so alert. She just sits there gazing at me. And interestingly enough, just to go off on a tangent, not that that's what I do, to go off on a tangent, when people compare springers to cockers, this is the difference between a springer and a cocker. The real difference is a springer is just like, what are we doing? Where are we going? This kind of absolute obsessive focus. You just don't get that from cockers in the same way. They're much more got their own agenda. They'll look at you, but they're much more like, oh, what else is there going on for me? Whereas a springer's like, we're here to work. Bomb goes off, we're here to work. People walk past, we're here to work. They don't care. They just want to do their job. Run away, run away. Now, I purposefully didn't say anything to the camera. I didn't say anything to Margot. I didn't give her any whistle commands. I didn't even give her a hand signal. I didn't even look at her, okay? Because actually she came across there quite nicely. She's still too close for a kind of shooting dog, beating dog. She's more working like a kind of really tight sort of rabbit trialing dog who's just getting everything in this little bit of ground. But from what I like to do, rough shooting, I'd want to be able to come through this bit of rashes on my own, maybe with a gun down there and a gun up there. And I know that I kind of can hunt this bit quite well myself. I might have to zigzag a bit to cover it all because it is quite wide. But with Margot, I need to go this in about 5, be like going through a field of crop, you know, like a wheat field or something with a 10-foot header versus a 40-foot header. Okay, I like to go through a game crop, a bit of rashes, a bit of heather with a big old wide header on the front of my combine. And Margot's like a sort of little kind of thing you might see in the mountains in Italy where the farmers just sort of farm for fun. We need a big arable unit down here. So it's just all different though, because I say in the trialing world, this is much more kind of this tight. She's got a lovely style and action, this tightness, this in close is really, they're really, especially in novice trials, I think that's really what they're after. I'm not an expert, so this is not absolutely, this is just what I've observed from watching some of them. But it's not what I want. I want a dog that's going to go further. None of us are ever happy. A trained dog, not trained for me. You know, it goes back to lots of comments. People say, oh, I like a trained dog. Well, trained for what? Because this dog is trained, but she's not trained for what I want to do. She's trained to be closer in. The reason is we got her as an older dog for various reasons. She came to us as an older dog. She was already been trained to do this, and we took her on. But I didn't say anything because if I'd engaged with her as I came through that, as soon as I'd given her a hand signal or some eye contact, she probably would have started to look at me a lot more and pay much more attention to me and not so much on the hunting. But you saw immediately we came into a bit of thicker cover and she was like, oh, there might be something to find here. And she kind of got on with it a bit more. But often people underhandle their dog and under control their dog, and the dog's off bloody miles away. And then in this scenario with a dog like this, we have to be careful not to over control her, because she'll just shut down, she'll just stop. And I've seen Labradors do the same thing. You stop them on a whistle, you give them a direction, you stop them again, you give them a direction. They literally turn their nose off because they're much more busy paying attention to you and ask where you're going, and they'll run over the top of game because they're like, oh, I've got to pay attention. And they're getting a bit of a pickle and they're not really using their nose. It's about that balance between the dog working, using its natural ability that's way better than we have in terms of nose and hunting skill, but still being in control. And there's always a fine balance. We saw Smudge the other day. She's just a bit too far. She needed a couple of bollockings. Margot today, she's just too close. She needs a couple of bollockings for being too close. You know, we're never happy. You can never win. Gone away. But again, I'm just going to hunt her off. Literally, I put my hands in my pockets. But even just me talking to the camera now, she's paying a bit more attention to me. I'm going to move down here because the cover's a bit thicker. Gone away. Gone away. And it's not that I wouldn't use a tennis ball in here, but I really don't want to still be using tennis balls with her. I want her to be doing this on her own. Okay, gone away. On her own, not because she thinks there's a ball. And you see, as soon as I stop, as soon as I raise my hand, she's like, oh, what are we doing? What are we doing? To a lot of you, you're thinking, wow, what a dream dog. She's like literally there. She never does anything wrong. It's the perfect scenario. Yeah, and I think what will happen with Margot, with a bit of beating and a bit more game under her nose, she will become the kind of the perfect dog. But what this is to show is that out of the same kennel, the same environment, the same sort of training, you know, kind of thing, we've got two dogs come in from a different angle. One we're having to hold back, and the other one we're having to push on. But as I said in the video with Smudge, the reason we're having to hold her back is we're halfway through the season. She's had quite a lot of days out, and she's like, oh, puffing her chest out. Margot hasn't done as much. She's been in season, various other things, so she hasn't been out as much. She was out with us the other day, which was really her first day out in about a month, out shooting in a month. So she, you know, maybe I think by the end of the season, if we can get Margot out on a number of more rough shooting days and beating days, she might kind of start to pull a little bit, and maybe we'll do a video in the spring of bloody Margot keeps pissing off over the hill. Who knows? Hopefully not, though. Remember, you get out what you put in. Margot certainly puts in a lot, but maybe just channeled in the slightly the wrong way. So we're hoping to get her out of that. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Gone away. Gone away. Run away.